I don't know if there's a deadline for e-comments. I don't believe there is, because I seem to recall at City Council that they often have to refresh the screen. So I don't know that there is a deadline, but those are filed away. So once the meeting is concluded, whatever was submitted, that's included and received as part of the formal record for the meeting. So at that point, it's then a matter of reading it after the fact if you wanted to, but.
So if we had I'm just thinking of a situation where we did get a bunch of emails, we might be able to read a bunch of them before the meeting even starts in that situation. And then we would still accept them. So if we didn't read them in the meeting, we would still.
Yes, and the e-comments are available on the city website. So anyone can access those. Anyone can view those at any time ahead of the meeting and actually during the meeting. So yeah, that is something. Blue folder items are the ones that we will email directly to you, but the e-comments are all viewable online.
All right.
So for tonight, did we want to read the e-comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have resident David Martin. I am a resident near Perry Park. I observed 2 junior high boys with others watching and filming, slapping each other in the face adjacent to the playground, causing one to bleed and the other to cry. I was shocked by this and intervened by ensuring they were okay and to stop. They said they were playing and friends, they were friends, but it didn't appear that way and is definitely not the place to be play fighting as they described. Is there any thought of having a non-sworn park service enforcement officer, park ranger like Manhattan Beach, to be the eyes and ears for the fire and police department? I think we should have one to monitor park areas during peak hours when schools let out to ensure children's safety. The Manhattan Beach Park Service Enforcement Officer is a non-sworn position that under general supervision, this non-sworn position patrols and monitors parks to enforce city rules, regulations, codes, and ordinances, and resolves disputes or conflicts among park patrons. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Michelle, and if I can just confirm, we don't have anyone on Zoom that wants to speak?
We do not.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Chair, that concludes all the comments this evening.
That concludes all the comments.
Yes.
And we're not allowed to talk about them, right?
About the e-comment?
Yeah.
You can ask very high-level questions. We can't go into the topics. It's not an agendized item, but if there's certainly questions for staff, we're happy to try and answer those.
We would do that now, or do we do that?
We can do that now, yes.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the speakers?
I have a question. I know at Wilderness Park, there's like a park ranger. Do any of the other parks have kind of a ranger type?
We do not. At Wilderness Park, it's a recreation leader that opens and closes the park and assists with some facility items, but we do not have park rangers throughout the city.
A question I had was on the other gentleman's comment on AYSO, and they're looking for space and things like that. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of a few spaces that organizations can use: Beach City's Health District, the library, and so forth. Is this something that they just need to go directly to the city about?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we can certainly facilitate that. You know, it's a balance for, at least for the city facilities. You know, while the facility may be available, if we don't have staff available to be at the facility, that may be a hindrance to its usage. So certainly expanding that reach to the libraries, Beach City's Health District is definitely a great idea. But yeah, we can start looking at our facilities if someone reaches out to us directly.
So he should just contact the city then, and not, because he did ask the commission if we would, the question, come up with a list of places, but it seems like that would be the city staff that just manages that with suggestions maybe?
Yes, we can look at the calendar and see what's available. So yeah, if he were to reach out to us directly, we can assist.
I guess the follow-up question for my own benefit. So he was asking for a 7 to 9 p.m., which you would not have city employees available to oversee, like a senior center, right?
I don't want to say definitively no. There may be cases where we would, but it's
curious.
not too standard that they would be open that late.
Right.
But if we did have something else going on in the facility, we could certainly try
Yeah.
to facilitate that.
Okay, just curious. He may have tried to get the nighttime slot and he probably couldn't, had a hard time getting that slot after 5 PM or whatever, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions on that? Okay, so we advance to election of officers. J1, is that where we are?
Yes, Chair. So this is an annual item for the commission to consider who will serve as the chairperson, vice chair, and secretary for the upcoming calendar year. Typically, this would be done in October. The October agenda was a bit heavy because we were discussing the Edo Parquet. So we were going to do it in November, and then unfortunately our November meeting was canceled. So that's why we're bringing it to you in December. So on a regular basis, this position would run from October to October each year. So again, it's for the chairperson, vice chair, and secretary. Just want to reiterate, just because it's somewhat of a new position, that the secretary position is purely ceremonial at this time. Staff will continue to do the minutes and all the administrative duties associated with the agenda. But because it's something that is in the city ordinance, we do need to have someone designated from the commission to serve in that role. The other two positions, obviously the chair manages and runs the meetings, and the vice chair would manage the meetings in the absence of the chairperson. And so with that, I'll leave it to you all to decide who you'd like to serve in those positions for the next year.
And traditionally, it's usually a rotation, right?
I don't know if it's been a rotation, to be quite honest with you. Unfortunately, I don't have a deep history into that. I can say, obviously, you're the chair and Commissioner Varvarigos is the vice chair. So I don't know who it was previously to that, unfortunately, but you're welcome to do it in any order. It doesn't necessarily have to be a rotation, but.
I've been here, I don't know, it's been 5 years or so. I haven't served as a chair, but vice chair. And Katie served as chair. I think that's it from here so far. And it's just kind of been almost random. We kind of vote on it. I don't know if anybody wants to be the chair and maybe start from there. Or,
Yeah, I have no problem being either the secretary or the other position, or just regular commission as well. So, would you say if anybody wants to do it, please?
For chair?
If you've never done it, you're probably the most senior member
I'd
here.
like to, if you're willing.
I would. I wasn't nominating myself, but
I'm just asking you.
You started it.
Off the record, I'm asking you, do you want it? Yeah. Love to nominate you.
I've been pretty comfortable in the vice chair position.
Everyone wants a vice chair position.
You did have to step in last time. Did a fine job.
His job also pulls him away sometimes, so, right, yeah.
Yeah,
But you have the vice, just in case.
that's true. That's true. I would serve as chair. I would keep you in chair. Vote to keep you as chair as well. So if,
I have no problem doing it, but I also have no problem not doing it. It's, it's more just going down the line. So I've seen you do it, so that's not a problem. And is anybody else interested that we would?
Could I ask off record,
Sure.
Gil? Not, okay, that's good, that's fine. I don't blame you.
I would say,
I'm actually okay staying as vice chair if no one else wants to be vice chair. I'm okay with things as they are, unless there's someone who really wants to be chair.
I'd be vice chair.
You would like to be vice chair? Mm-hmm. I'll make a motion for Mara to be vice chair.
I second the motion for Mara.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get my feet wet?
And then anybody want to make a motion on the chair? For
For Jacob?
Jacob.
I motion to nominate Jacob Varvarigos as chair
I'll
of
second that.
the Rec and Parks Commission.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then we need, was it treasurer or secretary? Ceremonial
Secretary, yeah.
Any nominations for them?
I'll make a motion to nominate Gil for secretary.
I'll second that.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Chair, can I ask who seconded the secretary position?
I just did.
McCall, okay, thank you.
So we have a new chair. That's right now, right?
Today.
Right now.
Right.
We can, so I do ask that you just remain in your seats,
Okay,
but,
all right.
but it's really up to the commission. If you'd like to close out your meeting as chair, or if you'd like to hand over the reins.
We'll close it out, then let's start up. That'll work.
I'm not prepared.
You have to be psychologically ready.
Yes.
The last time I think we did it right in the middle of the meeting. I think so, yeah.
Chris, right?
I passed it right. I was like,
But we were online. It was online.
We were online.
We were online, that's
it
what it
was
was.
easier. Yeah.
We'd have to physically move then.
Okay,
All right, so, very good. So J1 is done, and we are on subcommittee review. Excellent. Mr. Contreras, would you like to?
Go ahead.
Go. So Gil and I, we finally had our meeting with the youth organizations, and we got the Veterans Park Senior Center, which the city had gotten us to reserve a nice space. Speaking of space for youth groups, possibly that could be one to put on the list. And we had the organizations that were present were AYSO, the two AYSOs that Matt was talking about. We had the Redondo Sunset, and we were in text with Little League. The guy from Little League, I was texting with him. And we had, who else was there?
Dog park.
The dog park. And I think, and I had conversed with basketball, but they couldn't make it. And I had conversed with football, and they couldn't make it. So we had reached out to youth football, youth basketball, both youth baseball and girls softball in the city, and both soccers and the dog park. And Mike Klein from Public Works showed up, which was really helpful, and pretty cool that he was there, because they had a lot of questions in regards to some of the stuff that he was really good at. And I just lost my list of things I wanted to go over. They had, I won't read everything, but there was a good bit of conversation about their needs. And so I'll just kind of read through. It's not a huge list. Of course, my eyes aren't that big. There we go. Some of the things were with regards to lighting. They have lighting issues, control over lights with the school district. A lot of the issues, Gil, right, were about the school district that we don't have any control over and influence. So a lot of the youth parks, or a lot of the parks that we have in our city, are on school district property. And so the groups that have issues with the school district, I know we had the school board member that came here, and there was some dialogue. I think we would want to pursue that, because the school district has a very unique position. They don't have the money to really support the personnel to take care of the fields and do a lot of the work and maintain and have people out. And then the youth groups that use it want the support from the school district that they're not getting, but yet they come to us, and we don't really have any control because it's not a city field. For example, like at Alta Vista Park, the park is split down the middle. And so there's the Julia side, which is the tennis court side. That side, there's a big project that's going to be going on there that they're going to be returfing it or regrassing it, I think, pretty soon. And, but the other side, we have no influence. We can't really tell the school district what to do with the fields over there. And that's also the same problem at Anderson Park as well. There were some issues there, but one of the big things was the lighting, having control of the lights or access to the lights, and turning off the lights earlier, I think, was one of the things. It used to be the lights were on until 10 o'clock, and now they shorten it to like 9:30, and they like turn right off at 9:30, and sometimes they're just finishing up and people are on the field, and then the lights turn out. There was an issue there, but again, that's not, we can relay to the school district, but we really don't have much influence on that. The other issue was, as Mr. Kilroy explained, the space for meetings was huge. And they also were concerned with just with like supplies, any secondhand. Remember we were talking about the tractor or sharing supplies. A lot of the youth groups do a lot of the maintenance on the parks as well. And so their volunteers do a lot of the work. And so they were kind of looking for ways to kind of share different, not only equipment, but also personnel and ideas and whatnot. And so there was a tractor that they were talking about somebody could use, and even some of the grass equipment to do something with the grass. So anyway, so I don't want to go into all the details, but Gil and I were there representing this commission. Mike Klein was there representing the city. And it was, to my experience, it was a pretty successful dialogue about issues. They also want to meet again. So at some point, we're going to do more meetings and follow up. And we made it very clear that we were not going to be able to solve all these problems, but it was good to have them together to talk about the different issues. And so I think we'll continue on that. And we'll let you guys know when it is, so if anybody else wants to come on out.
I think one of the bigger issues that we're kind of coming across with the youth groups and with the school district is, as they term it, a failure to communicate. Either some issues in the past had presented itself, and I believe that the school district's kind of remedy was to just shut it down. And whether we approach this as more of a mediation, we can kind of sit back and say, okay, let's open these doors back up and let's see if we can discuss this. I spoke to a couple of people from the school board, or from the schools, and one school board member, and their kind of approach was, we were kind of unaware of this, but we're willing to kind of see where this goes, or issues in the past that were never addressed, because again, a whole new regime has come in as far as so I think it's kind of for us to kind of maybe look at it, maybe from an arm's length a bit, but in the mediation type of opening doors. And again, the meeting I think was successful. This gentleman was also advised that Beach Cities does have quite a bit of space. They fairly liberal in allowing who they want, or rather, to use the space. The dog park used it for years. And it didn't cost us a dime, and it's generally speaking, there's 4 or 5 rooms that are available every night. And they're not monitored, there's no hassle, there's no problem. There's bathrooms, it's good. And we kind of advised it, and I think sometimes...
There's no internet.
I'm sorry?
There's no internet connection either.
Yeah, that's about the dead thing. Yeah,
That's the only
everything's
thing.
dead down there, but...
And no refreshments.
Well, there's nobody to watch you if you bring them in. Okay, but, yeah, but again, I think that the outreach is important for us to kind of get an idea. We brought up the idea of, and I brought this up to a council person in the past, is that the city has a fairly robust salvage pile of items that are being utilized by the city that are no longer, and they generally term it serviceable. And generally that goes to auction. And my request was that nonprofits that work within the city or work with the city or for the city be given first dibs at it. Whether it's a rake that doesn't work or is not the right color, or when something's broke on it, all the way down to a gator that they're going to get rid of, okay? That the people within the city, especially these groups, are able to come in there, utilize it first. And because again, sometimes the money that we get from the salvage items is pretty cheap, if anything. Because again, it's all generally bulk salvage. So those are some of the recommendations we gave to them, or what we looked at in order to see what their needs were. And I think it was very successful. And I think that if we do it quarterly, we can get an idea of what's going on with, I guess, the newer people that come in for each of the
Yeah, I was going to
organizations.
say that one of the observations that I kind of caught was the people in the leagues are rotating in and out. They're different people, and their kids grow out of the league. And so the learning curve is really, it's big. So when somebody experienced in the league leaves and new people are coming in, they don't know who to call and what to do. And so by just having kind of like these meetings, you kind of get the conversations that they were having were along that line of like they were helping each other out. And I think that's just right there was very beneficial.
That's one of the things we do at the dog park, is we'll get people who come in and they'll say, well, why can't you do this? Why? So sometimes during a meeting, we'll go down a list. No, we can't put in bathrooms. No, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. So everybody, every 6 months has this brilliant idea of digging a hole and building a bathroom. We tell them we can't do it because Edison owns it. It's not happening. And usually once we get it out of the way, we generally refer to it as front loading it. People get a little, I'm not trying to discourage people, but it just kind of kills those conversations. The things we can do, then we can say more than willing if you were looking to step up with it. And a lot of people don't.
So, yeah, it was good. It was interesting, and so I think that's, yes, any questions?
Well, no, I just want to say that I thank you guys for having an extra meeting and doing that. I think it was, for the sake of full disclosure, my husband is the commissioner of baseball at Redondo Sunset, so he was at the meeting. And he said it was just a huge success and really helpful. And I do think it's something that every turnaround of, staff, so to speak, that, making this sort of like a regular commission thing would be really useful, I think. I mean, just youth sports in general, I mean,
They figure if he's got
Mr. Kilroy was
2,500
saying,
kids,
yeah,
and-
it's thousands of Redondo Beach kids. So that's a huge, important population. And and again, all of these people are volunteers and they're putting tons and tons and tons of time into these organizations. And so,
And they're saving the city money. They're
Yeah.
saving the school district money, and
Yeah.
they should be supported for that. There's a big plus that we get as community members of their parents and volunteering and fixing things and maintaining things that
well,
the
and
city's not paying for.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, you get somebody from Public Works and they don't know that something's been broken or not working or, and then all of a sudden people are communicating and things are coming together, and that's just really priceless. Things happen so quickly just by sharing that information. So I think this is really great what you guys put together.
Well, thank you.
Agreed.
We'll keep it going too. So.
Yeah.
On that note, any other reviews before we go to director's report? Director's report it is.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a number of updates to give you and provide on some of the different locations throughout the city. I'll start with Perry Park. Just want to mention that the playground itself had a full resurfacing. So now it has that kind of rubber surface all throughout. That was completed through Prop 68 grant funds. And so we're excited that that project has been completed. At Perry Park, kind of going a little farther south, the basketball courts, that is the location of where we're going to be installing 3 pickleball courts. So we are working very closely with the vendor to make sure that the lines are where they should be, everything's fitting the way that they should. So it's taken a little bit longer than we initially had anticipated, but I think this extra time will give us a better product and something we'll all be happy with, because our end goal is to make sure that it's a shared space between basketball and pickleball. So that should be coming in early 2023. We are also looking at adding a windscreen to the south side of that basketball court. So windscreen was added just south of the playground. So basically in between the playground area and the current basketball courts, What we're looking to do is also add a windscreen on the opposite end of the basketball court, so up along Grant Avenue. And what that'll do is that will just help the pickleball play, because it remove some of the wind factor, since there will be windscreens now on both sides of the courts. So just that may be upcoming if we can find some extra funds for that. And for Dominguez Park Playground, just want to give you a quick update on that. We are planning to bring to you in January some proposals for you all to look at for the playground area. So we have reached out to a number of playground vendors and asked that they prepare a proposal based off of the conceptual plan and all of the input of the commission. So they're going to be presenting that to us right before our January meeting, and we'll prepare that and include it in the agenda. So you all will have an opportunity to view those and give us some input on the final playground equipment. So that'll be an exciting progress for that park. Moving on to aviation field, the artificial turf is currently being installed down there. So that's the entire field area in between the track area up there. So we're really excited to see that moving forward, and we're hoping that the field should be open in January, if not sooner. So another exciting update over there. And then finally, just want to give you a really quick update on the Veterans Historic Library RFP. So if you remember, we came to you a few months ago to talk about that facility and how it should be used in the future. We did prepare and release an RFP asking interested vendors to kind of send us their proposal for how they could envision that facility to be used and managed, and how they can fit those pieces together to be the operator for it. So we do have the deadline for that is actually tomorrow, December 15th at 2:30. So we are hoping to get some very good proposals that we can review. And with that, that concludes all of my director's reports. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
What was the last item, proposals for, I missed it.
Sure, that's for the Veterans Park
Veterans
Historic
Park.
Library.
Okay.
And what one, did the pickleball courts going to be in what park?
So those are going to be at Perry Park. There are also going to be pickleball courts installed at Franklin and Anderson parks. We're trying to figure out if those are going to be installed at the same time as Perry, or if we're going to do Perry first and then focus on those two. So eventually there will be a total of 6 pickleball courts, but 3 at Perry.
And at Anderson, are they going to be on the tennis courts?
And no, Anderson, it will be on the half-court basketball next to the gazebo area. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so thank you for the report there, Kelly. And now we go to member items for referrals to staff, and I can start us off on that. The first thing I would refer, I do have a couple, is the one that the gentleman brought up about space. Can we see what available spaces might be for the groups, that we can kind of give them a reply or somebody to contact in order to try to help them get meeting space? I know, just as a couple examples, I know Gil talked about the dog park, the wilderness park. Was it wilderness?
Was it Beach Cities?
Or beach, I'm sorry, Beach Cities. City property, I do know there's this space at Alta Vista Park, the little building behind the tennis courts. That's like a,
Yeah.
what is it, the racquetball court? Yeah, that could be one facility. And then the Veterans Park that we use, the meeting there, and then the community center at Alta Vista, and I think probably at Perry Park. So if the staff can give us kind of like an idea of what to refer, or where to refer the groups, who to contact, or what places might actually be. Or if the answer is just no, they can't use any of them, that's fine too. But.
Yeah, no, we're happy to definitely facilitate that. So, Michelle, I hate to put you on the spot, but I don't want to give the wrong email, but what is the general email address for our department that we can have everyone email if they're interested in renting space?
We have the recweb at redondo.org. And so then if they email at recweb@redondo.org, I have one staff member that disperses those emails to the appropriate divisions, because I have different people overseeing
For
different facilities.
different locations. And then on that, there's fees for all those places that they would have available?
There are rental fees, yes.
Is there a reduced rental fee for the youth groups?
I do believe they have nonprofit rates, is that correct?
Certain locations have approval for nonprofit rates, but then they have to pay, like one of the parents from the Little League can't pay directly. It needs to come directly from that nonprofit organization.
From the organization. So. Okay. That's helpful. We can kind of relay that back to them. And then there's an agreement with the turf at Aviation Field. Can we get that agreement or look at it, or can we get information about it? What is the deal long-term with that property? How is that agreement, and who uses it? Because some of us aren't really sure what's going on there with the usability of that. So if we get any feedback or information on that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can share with you the agreement. We did just enter into an agreement with South Bay Sports. Is that the correct name?
Yes.
And they're the organization that is utilizing the space on select times and funding the full turf.
What's going on right now. They're
Correct.
doing-
Yeah. So they're fully funding that.
So they're paying for that, and then I don't want to get too much into just obvious question I have is they're redoing the turf right now, and they have like a lease or something they have for the property, or do they own the property now?
No, they do not own the property. It's still city property, but they do have within the agreement an ability to utilize the space during select times. I don't have those off the top of my head. But it is in the agreement. So I can
But yeah, like the
share
details
that.
on that, just so we can.
Sure.
And then one last issue was, can the city, I guess, Public Works, when we talked to my client about this at the meeting, in any way help with like any, the equipment that Gil was talking about? Like, is there any city equipment that would be, could be secondhand passed on to any of the groups for any, from gators to tractors to lawnmowers, things like that? If there's any way that either if there's anything available, or if there were, how could we get those people to talk to each other?
Sure. So that you're correct. That would definitely be a Mike Klein question.
Right.
So I'll follow up with him and see what that process looks like and how we can incorporate the nonprofit groups if even possible.
I brought it up to council, I don't know how long ago, a year ago, when I brought it up to one of the council members. So I don't know where they went with it, or they just blew it off.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up with Mike regardless and see if we can get somewhere.
And that's all I got.
I have a couple things. One is very low-hanging fruit, but it's that baby swing.
It's still not replaced.
It's still not there.
I'm sorry.
And my kid is so old now, he doesn't even use a baby swing. But there's still, I see, 1 and 2 year olds wander in with their parents, and, they're looking for the baby swing, and there's only a big kid swing. So
And that's at Gregg Park, is that correct?
Gregg Park, so it's on Pullman Lane. And then the other thing is kind of a larger thing, but just based on what we heard through public participation, can we get a little bit more info on what's happening with the dog run? Because I don't think we actually.
I had the same question.
Yeah, I don't think that ever came to us initially, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's been, I'm taking their word that it has been tabled, but I just don't.
It has been.
Okay, but I would just like some
If you'd
formal.
like, I can give some information on that.
Very high level. Yeah, we can just informational. Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't get into a discussion about it, please.
Todd Lowenstein, the council person for the area, was contacted by several community people and kind of advised how a couple of things. One of how many people was not in favor of it. Also, the idea that it was fairly unsafe. He kind of reviewed his ideas as to what, why or it should go in, even though he had directed Public Works to do a lot of work on it. Okay, the question was given to him as well as to why it didn't come to Parks. And he says he just kind of figured, since the other 2 dog parks were kind of in the works and kind of slid under the radar as well, he thought this would be the same approval. There was a meeting, I think, a week after them coming forward, where Councilman Lowenstein met with the community. And they again voiced their opposition to it. He advised them was that he was not going to proceed with it, was not going to continue with it, and that everything else would cease. I spoke to him directly on that as well, and he's also assured me that he's not going forward anytime soon for that particular location. That doesn't mean anywhere else.
Where exactly were they planning to put it at that location? Do you know?
Toward all the way, because in honest and truth, I went out there and looked at it. Okay, you go all the way down to the park, right up to the pier level, right as the walkway by the pier. was exactly,
Isn't that on top of the garage?
yes,
That flat area there?
yes. And it was an area no more than
Not a big area.
20 by 20 at the most. And again, the advice was that if you try to put half as many dogs that are generally running free out there in that spot and getting people to comply with the law, you would probably have a major dog fight. Dangerous. And you didn't go, okay, didn't see it that way. Well, when you've got 10 or 15 dogs, and when I was there were 4 dogs running free without unleashed. And actually they turned it into a kind of a wine and cheese type of gathering and encouraging people to come out there, go off leash. But even if half the people that they've said that been out there would have gone into the park itself, it would have been dangerous. Because there was no opportunity to segregate big dogs, small dogs, entry with a gate and everything else. And then in addition to deal with the people that are just walking by. So, and in essence, it kind of from a different perspective, he opted not to proceed with that.
Is there something we can do tonight to set this up for a future agenda item that Rec and Park get involved in any potential park? Because dog park has park in the name.
It does.
It was made very clear to him,
Oh, okay.
okay?
So we don't have to do anything more.
But with him,
Well, that's only one council member.
that's right.
Well, no, I mean, I think what you're saying, right, is just moving forward that we are consulted first before. I mean, I'm a big proponent of kind of, sending things to council when they, but I mean, we hadn't even heard about it. So it would just, there needs to be some sort of process.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a, I don't want to use the wrong term. The commission serves at the will of the city council, and you're an advisory body, and that's not in any way to demean what you guys do. You guys do very important work. But if the city council has a project that they want to move forward that they feel they have all the information they need and they don't need the input of the Parks and Rec Commission specifically, they have that ability to do so. So I do know, though, in some of the past items that I've heard of them, not even Parks and Recreation related, but maybe Public Works or even Harbor Commission, they are very aware of the commissions in the city and have leaned on you all in many cases. The Veterans Library, for a good example, they were very specific. They wanted this commission to have input into that. So it's one of those things that the commission the city council is aware you guys are here and there to advise, but it's not a requirement that you advise on every Parks and Recreation related matter. So certainly as staff, we are there, behind the scenes to say, hey, we can bring this to the commission if you'd like. We will continue to be as diligent with that as possible. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it just kind of.
I think what it does is it kind of puts them in a bad position. Because again, I've made it very clear to the council person in my area about, and I call them vanity parks. Okay, that's exactly what, and Lowenstein is not in the area that I'm at either. And I kind of told him, it's kind of funny that you guys can do this. And I guarantee, I understand that you have the ability to do it, but should you do it? And my thing to him was, then why are we here if you're not going to trust us with something like this? And his response again was, because the other two, and I will refer to them as vanity parks, went up, okay, at I think 20,000 each. He thought that since they were already in place, that somehow it already come through us and that we were somehow approved of it.
Yeah, I think my point is not that I understand that we have no power. They do. I'm very clear on that. But what I'm curious of is if this kind of thing, and we only got you only hear the noisy people, but it sounds like a good proportion of folks thought this was a really bad idea, and it turns out it was a really bad idea. It would be very helpful if they had that resource of whether it's us or some community outreach, because we are one more area that can get out to the community.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have picked that location.
Sure.
We're all sort of feeling the exact same thing. I think specifically when they came up and they started kind of asking us for help. and we were like, we didn't even know this was going on. We're here to help, but how can we, help, I guess, if, the city council doesn't want our input, or, it's like, what,
Well, it's just this particular issue, I think, let's not make it too general. This particular dogs and park issue it started here. So, a former commissioner and I co-authored the proposal to even allow dogs in parks, period, which had not been in the ordinance forever. So that kind of started here and then moved to council. So I think for this particular issue, is especially kind of backwards and bizarre that it kind of went that way. So for other issues, I completely understand what you're saying, but for dogs and parks in particular, that was sort of a baby of the commission. And so that's why, to be a bit blindsided by, huge controversy with that and then not being in the know about it was a little bit sort of odd. So I think maybe a request for, a future meeting is just maybe to sort of like lay out just specifically with dogs and parks, since it is a relatively new thing for Redondo, like how do we deal with that moving forward? Like, does it come to us first, or do issues go to the council first? I think because it's a new ordinance, essentially, like we don't really know kind of, I think in District 4, they just went forward with the dog runs. But again, that's a new council person who doesn't really know the history of kind of dogs in parks. So I don't know. I just feel like there should be some sort of formula for it, just so that like residents know where to go when they're having an issue, like where to go first. And they're requesting information, but they're requesting it from us, but we may not have information to give.
I think the thing is to understand was that this did come out a bit of the issue concerning dogs off leash within the parks. Because I've had numerous conversations with a couple of the council people about enforcement, about causing, understanding and education, and most importantly, the lack of communication between the council and the community as to how it was to be enforced, what was to be done, and most importantly, what the law actually was. I found that after having the discussion with the council person, and this is only my opinion, was that a way of getting around enforcement was to try to just give people an extra park to say, oh, well, now you have a park to go to. And that's how that kind of came about. So when the park over at Alta Vista, the small dog park that nobody utilizes, because I sat out there one day for 6 hours and watched it, okay? And the thing again was that let's just tell people they can go there, and that'll stop the complaining about loose dogs in Alta Vista. And then the second one kind of popped up because the first one was there. I believe personally it was an end run around us, because I think if we would have sat down and looked at it and said, well, a 20-foot by 20-foot run at Alta Vista, it doesn't make sense. I understand the one over at the other park is doing well and is very well liked and is being utilized by quite a few people, which probably would have, actually it's a bigger location. So this may, again, my concern in talks to both council people was that, why didn't you come to us? And I get it that sometimes when they don't want pushback, because I think they anticipated pushback from us as well as from the community, that it was opted let's just move around it and just go forward. It's just my opinion. So who knows if whether anything else pops up. I think as a commission that we do need to do a little more outreach in the community to kind of let them know is that we can't solve all your problems, but we'll listen as a minimum. I think that's exactly what occurred with these other organizations, and that's why it was suggested we do that. Because, but I don't think we can, we can probably tell them to a blue in the face of, hey, come to us, and they're going to decide whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I don't really, I don't know, I guess member item or referral. I don't know what it should be. It's just a little bit embarrassing to have residents come and then we're kind of like, oh, they're thanking us, but we didn't really do anything. So,
Felt a little stolen valor there.
yeah.
We're not allowed to ask any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled that it worked
think
out.
someone's working
Yeah,
for
I
them,
mean, that's
too.
great. But I mean, I try to poke around to try to get more information. But it wasn't agendized, so I didn't, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that,
Well, I went out there and met with them, and I talked to them, and I apologize profusely for that.
oh, so maybe we did do something.
Oh, okay. Good job, Dave. We did it.
And again, and the other thing with that was just saying, and I think there was a little bit of an explanation of how the city works and what they had to do as well. They were stakeholders and they bought into it, and they did what they had the right to do, and they voiced their opinion the way they should have been done, and everything else. They just needed a little bit of guidance. That's all. And whether unfortunately, Councilman Lowenstein saw the ramifications for it, or as well as the idea of whether it was a good or not a good idea, and he acted, and it worked out for the best.
I mean, I guess as long as residents' needs are being met, that's all
Or they're
that
being heard,
matters.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I kind of think that it would be nice if there were a bit more organized, formalized method
A
of,
little checklist. to make
yeah,
sure-
like,
To the Parks Commission.
but I don't know.
And ultimately, they don't-
Well, did the city council put out some kind of research into what would be a good place for dog parks?
No.
Isn't that something maybe we could put on our agenda to say we could help with that?
If that's an initiative of the commission that you all want to put that together, you certainly have the ability to do that. It's not something that the council has specifically asked for, but you guys all have the power certainly to put that together if you would like to.
Again, sometimes they'll put out proposals on that dog park. For example, the park in your area, I believe it is. They're now requiring a public works guy to go there every week and rake it. Probably every 2 or
Yeah, it
3
makes
days
sense.
to rake it. Well, it makes sense. If you're paying somebody $15, $20, $30 an hour, we don't have time for them to mow the lawn, but they get to rake the dog park, or the small dog park. Whereas had they approached the Friends of Redondo Beach Dog Park and sat down with some people who understand dogs and understand how dog parks run, they probably could have come to a consensus between the 2 dog parks where they were going to be maintained by volunteers and zero cost to the city.
I would say that being a dog owner and loving the idea of a dog park, that it would be best if it was more organic in the sense of if there was a group of people who wanted a dog park to come to us as opposed to us kind of researching where to put it. We're kind
Agreed.
of putting the
Yeah,
cart in front of the
agreed.
horse.
Yeah.
Which has not happened.
Don't
So,
push it.
when the time comes, because, then whoever's on this body would put some thought into it to come up with a better location than.
I only have 1 tractor, so I'm not dragging everybody else.
So anyway, on that, any other questions or items for?
I do have one item. Kind of in going through with speaking to these organizations, and I believe I sent you an email concerning recognition of volunteers, of people who work within the community, and actually save probably millions of dollars every year. And I did kind of throw this out to my council person, but I would like to see if possible that as a commission, that we maybe do a little bit of outreach in finding out volunteers or people that make somewhat of a bit of a difference in our community, that we get some type of certificate acknowledgement from either from the commission or from the city itself, that we make recommendations of, where, for example, there are 5 women who, I'm sure if you're aware of this, who prune roses and tend the roses at the Morale House every Tuesday. And they don't want to be bothered by anybody, they do it, and it looks really nice and really good. And I think sometimes a little bit of acknowledgement of what they do, and they've been doing this the 20 years that I've been there, may be maybe liked or not, or maybe not, or even with the local AYSO, that they give a recommendation of one of their volunteers of the year, that as a city that we acknowledge that, not just within their organization. Where AYSO or somebody who's been parent, who's been working with the softball league for 15 years and has never been acknowledged by the city. I have, for example, somebody who's been volunteering 15 years at the dog park. Every Wednesday she's there. She's the one who does all the irrigation. Interestingly enough, last week her sister died on Wednesday. She was there, raking and everything else. I think we owe it to the people in the community to acknowledge some people. And what's it going to cost us? $1 for a piece of paper or something like that in 20 minutes of our time?
Do we have something like that, like a citywide, like volunteer recognition program? Or?
So our department, we do an annual volunteer event for just the volunteers for community services. But citywide, we don't have anything for volunteers specifically. But the commission, if the commission would like to develop a program, if it's related to Parks and Recreation, I'm certain we can incorporate that into our department's volunteer event, and it could be a Parks and Rec Commission award for volunteerism that year, whatever we want to call it. We do need to be specific to develop some program guidelines for that. So I don't know if you want to create a subcommittee for that, or if you want to task staff with trying to put something together. I don't want to formalize it too much, but at the same point, I just want to make sure it's very clear what's being awarded and who would be eligible for that. I think that's something that we could easily implement within our existing volunteer annual event that we have.
I'd be more than glad to head or work with something in that as well. I think also there's also exploration. I know that the federal government or the president has what's generally referred to as 1,000 points of light. The nonprofit that I run, we, for 200 hours worth of a volunteer, anywhere from 200 to 500, you get a certificate from the president and a medal and things like that. To many people, it's very important. Others don't care. But I think we should make some attempt at outreach and to acknowledge people. But I'll be more than glad to run with something like that, or to work with whoever. Something like that. Set up guidelines for you and taking a look, and then being able to draft something for you.
Sure. And then we would bring it as a future item. When it's ready, we can agendize it and the commission can provide its input and we can develop that formal program. So for tonight, if we can have a formal motion to develop the subcommittee, that would be great. And then whoever is tasked with that can start working on it. And then I can be in contact with them on when it's completed, and then we can agendize it for a future agenda.
Would anybody like to make a motion to form a subcommittee?
I'll make a motion to form a subcommittee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a subcommittee.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help out with that.
Cool. Do we need to name the committee members?
As part of no, it's fine. Not as part of the motion, no.
All right, on that note, are there any other referrals or
I have
questions?
one quick question here. I was walking the other day by Anderson Park, and it was active and a lot of things going on there, and I went to use the restroom, as I usually do, because that's on my walk thing. It was locked at like 10 to 7, even though the park is open till quite a bit later than that. Was that just an anomaly, or do they close it earlier than the park closes?
I would have to double check on that. I don't know the timing of that closure, but I can.
No, it's the one behind the basketball court, which is always so. That's because the other ones behind the tennis courts, they have now a keypad on it, which is new, but they're usually open. And neither one was open, actually. I checked at that point because I was kind of in an emergency and I had to go home real quickly.
What day was that on?
What date?
Yes.
It would have been
like on the day of the week.
It's
Do you
about
recall?
a month. Yeah, we didn't. I was going to bring it up at the last meeting, so
Got
it was
it.
before the
Okay.
last meeting.
That's okay.
So
We can-
it was dark already because gets dark at 4:45 now. So I knew it wasn't related to darkness. And I do want to see that you can't have it open all night and problems with people just coming in at any time. But if the park's actually open, it seems to make sense that the restrooms should be.
Yeah, I would have to circle back and see when the restrooms
Okay.
are scheduled to be open and closed on that.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it. So does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are officially out of session. Thank you all very much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and enjoy the holidays. Good seeing everybody. Congratulations, Jacob. I'll be in your chair.